Jeremy wrote a comment recently that he placed a streaming camera on top of a mountain. I hope I've got these facts more or less right. But he placed a streaming camera on top of a mountain and was streaming video of a burning forest fire. A local news station grabbed some of his video and used it in their news report. The question in the comment was, is this fair use? Is it fair use for the news station to take his streaming video and to use it without payment or without attribution on their news channel? Hi, my name is Carr Ferrell. Welcome back to my channel. Before we jump into a yes or no answer, let's first take a look at this doctrine of fair use. If you get to the question of fair use, it's because you've already been accused of infringing someone's copyright. Fair use comes up when someone accuses you of taking and using their content, and you respond to them, yes, I may have used your content, but I had a right under the fair use doctrine to do so. So where does this defense of fair use come from? Fair use is your assertion that you had a constitutional right to express yourself under the First Amendment. It's a free speech argument in which you're asserting that your right of free speech trumps my right to have protected content. But wait a minute, my right of copyright is also a constitutional right protected under Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. I have a right to create and protect my works of authorship from unauthorized use. So this begins to feel like the irresistible force meeting the immovable object. We have two constitutional principles in collision with each other. To help us reconcile this conflict, Congress promulgated some statutory language which helps clarify what the fair use defense means and how to sort it all out. Section 107 of the Copyright Act sets out 4 factors which should be considered when trying to determine whether fair use applies. These 4 factors include the purpose and character of the work, the nature of the copyrighted work, the amount and substantiality of the portion of the work used, and then finally, the effect of the use on the potential market for the work. In determining whether fair use applies, we balance and weigh these 4 factors against each other. And suffice it to say that for any specific set of facts, it's often very difficult in advance to determine whether in fact there actually is fair use. Okay, now getting back to Jeremy's problem. He has a camera on a mountain. He's streaming video. A news channel takes the video and puts some of his video, a portion of his video, on the evening news. Is this fair use or not? Or is this just a copyright infringement? That is, to provide content to the TV news program and to the station so that advertisers will pay the station and pay the station owners for the privilege of advertising on that content. Now, at first blush, we would think that a news program would have strong fair use arguments with respect to the content that they use. It would seem that the public would have a strong interest in the news of the day and that the use of this content would be in some ways transformative. That is, in the sense of the way it was being edited and the way it was being presented. And almost always there is some commentary that goes along with video that's shown on the evening news. For example, boy, that really is a big fire that's burning out on the mountain today. I hope everyone's okay. But courts have held that there's no automatic right for news stations to republish copyrighted content. For example, in the famous case, Los Angeles News Service versus Reuters, the Ninth Circuit held that it was not fair use for Reuters to grab content off of NBC's evening news and relicense that content to Reuters subscribers. This copyrighted video was of the beating of Reginald Denny back in the 1990s in Los Angeles. After an evaluation of the 4 factors, the court held that this was not a fair use by by Reuters in utilizing someone else's copyrighted work. The main takeaway from this particular court case is that it's really tricky in advance to know whether the use of a copyrighted work by a news service will constitute fair use. It's very fact dependent, not only in terms of what's contained within the video and how much of the video is being used, but also in the circumstances and the context around the ownership and use of the copyrighted work. Now, a very important issue that arises before our analysis of fair use is in fact whether this streaming video was itself copyrightable. The two requirements for copyright are that number one, it be an original work of authorship, and number two, that it be fixed in a tangible medium of expression. So in the case of a video on top of a mountain, it's not enough that the video is being streamed, but it must be also fixed in some tangible medium of expression. It must be recorded in some way so that the copyright attaches to this recorded work. Now, the second issue that arises with this copied stream of a mountain video is that in order to sue the television station for copyright infringement, the owner of that copyright must first register the copyright in the U.S. Copyright Office. In order to sue someone for copyright infringement, you must first register the copyright. Now, it doesn't mean that you must register the copyright prior to the copyright infringement, but it does mean that you must register the copyright prior to bringing a lawsuit against the accused infringer. A third consideration in bringing a copyright action, and I'm not suggesting that Jeremy necessarily is going to want to sue the news station, but whenever bringing a copyright action against an accused infringer, it's important to consider the matter of statutory damages. To incentivize the public to register their copyrights early, the law provides statutory damages for the registration of your copyright prior to the infringement. So what does that mean, statutory damages? Well, normally if a copyright is infringed and the copyright is registered, you're entitled to collect damages from the infringement or the use of your copyrighted material. You must prove the actual damages that you suffered as a result of the copying. And those actual damages can be really hard to prove. Let's imagine that you're a streamer. You've got a camera on top of a mountain and you're giving away your live stream for free. A news station comes along and amplifies the streaming of your video and gives it to additional people. What's the real harm here? What are the actual damages that you've suffered by having additional viewers actually see your free video stream? Now, statutory damages are special because statutory damages are set out by law. Statutory damages for copyright infringement can be up to $150,000 per infringement for willful and egregious cases. In addition, under the statutory damages law for copyright infringement, you may be entitled to collect court costs and attorney fees from the copyright infringer. So the important thing to remember is that if you want to collect statutory damages, you need to register your copyright prior to the infringement or within 3 months of the first publication of your copyrighted material. If you're not able to collect statutory damages, then you'll be limited to proving actual damages in the event that you decide to litigate this in court. And then there's the final consideration, and this is the consideration you should always think about when you have a dispute. How do you want this dispute to end? What is it you're really after? And there's no single answer that fits every person in this case. I don't know the answer to this, but Jeremy may be an elementary school teacher, and this is a class project put together by the students in the class he's teaching. It may be in this case that it's enough for Jeremy and his class to get a thank you letter from the local news station. Or Jeremy may be a professional media company where he and his employees have deployed dozens of these cameras throughout the local mountains. In this case, the publication of his videos on the evening news may significantly devalue his videos to others. So ultimately, with respect to the infringement of the streamed video by the news station, it's not clear whether this is a fair use or not. My guess is that assuming that the streamed video was properly affixed to some tangible medium of expression that is recorded somewhere, that this probably was not fair use by the news station of Jeremy's video. That's not to say that this was a willful or egregious case by the news station, but just that it's incumbent on the station to get permission or to get a license for the use of the video prior to its broadcast. This is common practice among news stations, and television broadcasters are particularly sensitive to copyright infringement. Jeremy, thank you so much for watching my videos and posting your comments. Super interesting question. I really enjoyed reading it and answering it. If anyone else has questions about copyright, fair use, intellectual property, or their businesses or creativity, put them in the comments section below. We'd love to read them. In the meantime, I'll look forward to seeing you on the next video.